Time to talk Canes. We got Anton Skudarnov on the line. You can join him right here on YouTube on Miami Hurricanes Time. This, of course, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, where we aim to deliver the best in discussion, debate, and analysis across the Power Five and beyond. And, of course, Miami coming up on its spring game in just a few weeks. We got Anton on the line. How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. How are you doing, Mark?
I am doing great. And I appreciate you coming on and giving us some information and insight. I like to get a cross-section of opinion and perspective. You've had your YouTube channel going here for a few months. How's it been?
It's been amazing, incredible. 3 months. We're about to hit 2K subscribers. The community has just been throwing lots of love, lots of positivity. We've had crazy stories where kids send me in film. Dads are like on the phone in tears talking about their son, that he's made it as a walk-on and such. So it's been incredible. Creators, for the gear. It's just nothing that I expected when I started in January to come, not even first spring practice scrimmage game to what it be. But the community has really embraced, and I just enjoy it. Love it.
So 3 months, you started after the football season.
Yes. We actually started January 8th. So Manny Diaz was head coach, and that was just a couple of weeks. And I said, you know what? This seems interesting. I want to talk about it. I got to, and just flew out from there.
That's great. So you've been watching Miami football how long?
Since sixth grade. Sixth grade is the first full season of Miami football that I watched. I watched games when I was a little kid growing up, on and off, and I heard about it when I lived in Miami. I remember all those crazy days, the early 2000s, and people hooping and hollering, and I was like kind of getting it, but not real. I'm like, man, what is this This seems exciting. And then sixth grade, I had a teacher that was actually from Miami as well as me, and she was like, I love Hurricanes. I was like, I started watching them. You're interested? She's like, yeah, you got this is the team. And I just after the Florida State game, I knew this is my team. I knew this is my hometown. This was my childhood, and it's been ups and downs during the season, but through them all, always a Canes fan.
All right, very good. So, how do you feel about the Manny Diaz hire?
So I've been there since the Randy Shannon era, and I don't think there's a head coach that has been as hyped on the fan base, has been so corralled on him than anyone else. There was quite some hype with the Mark Richt, but it was kind of like a desperation call answered. This one seems like the finish line call, the guy, the man, I mean, his dad was the mayor of Miami, and I remember all of that. And even my parents, who have no clue what football is, I said, yeah, we have Manny Diaz. I said, oh yeah, we know his dad. That's the guy. So I'm really high on him. I love how he's talking, and I don't know if you saw his recent video, but he's quite the spokesman. It doesn't have to be just football, but he talks with a goal in mind, and very smart and wise, and he seems very real, and just this energy. It's nothing says better Miami than Manny Diaz, and I'm just excited to see what he can do for us. I certainly don't want to take away from Mark Richt, because obviously he's a Cane. So he, I don't want to make a separation as him not being a fit, because he did play there at the school and is an alum. But, fast forwarding to 2019, there seems to be some separation between the way he leads a football program and what Miami's reputation is, and what seems to be the fit for the school. And Mark Richt, as you say, was a bit of a safe choice, even though it didn't turn out that way. You would think Mark Richt, based on his success at Georgia, is going to lead a program in a certain manner, and they're going to be competitive, but made a few missteps, I think, in the last year and a half. They cost him. Yeah, and I think where it really started with the fan base kind of distancing from him is we were loving the record in 2017. There's no doubt about it. And we were called the Cardiac Canes, which we're kind of iffy about with such close, amazing games. But it was a Florida State game that, the players are up there, stomping on the field on the Seminole. And he said, no, get off this. We have class, which that's just Mark Richt, and there's nothing against that. But then Miami's known for being the bad boys, for everyone hating on us and us, giving it back. So it was different. Whereas I don't think Manny Diaz will be disrespectful in any way. In fact, Florida State is his alma mater. But, he conducts himself in a Jimmy Johnson type of different era, and that's what Miami wants to bring back. But him branding it as the new Miami instead of go to the olden days, which are no more, is very fascinating and creative and just genius, in my opinion. Really genius.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We talk the game we love for the hardcore sports fan like you each and every day, all the Power Five plus the Group of Five as well. We got Anton Skudarnov on the line. You can catch him right here on YouTube. You just search Miami Hurricanes Time, and you catch his YouTube channel and what he does there. So for somebody that hasn't seen what you deliver there, what's your focus? What's your style? What do you bring?
Yeah, well, it's been a variety because it's a new YouTube channel, so I've been trying to see what resonates with the audience. The latest one that's been very fun, and I just uploaded the second episode, is What Happened To, and we've been doing past Miami Hurricanes players and where they are now. So if you want to catch those, we did Denzel Perryman, and he's doing really well. And the last one was kind of a down story about Mark Walton, then updating crazy, bizarre stuff going on with him. But it's all around Canes and college football. It's not that we won't want to do college football and at all general stuff, but mostly if it's Miami related so far. Lately, spring practice has been getting an analysis after the second we can when we get actual film. What are the media saying? Get it all culminated into one spot, summarized so the fans are up to date, and how those battles are progressing has been basically the past month. Before that, it was just Cane talk, Manny Diaz, really. It was really about Diaz and his insane shenanigans of what he's been doing and catching people up on those news, so that's what it's been so far. We'll see where it progresses to.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Miami. We got Anton Skudarnov. You can catch him on YouTube right here at Miami Hurricanes Time. So based on what you just said about your regiment of compiling information, tape, what is being said after practices, the boys hit the field first on March 19th, so we're about 3 weeks in. What has really stood out to you?
Well, first off, the coaches. We knew that Dan Enos was a splash hire. We wanted a home run hit, and just hearing him talk, he's very educated and goal-oriented. It's not just coach talk. He knows what he's doing and how to improve quarterbacks. We thought that's what we'll get based on his past resume, but hearing him and how he improves these quarterbacks, it's exciting. There's a lot of work to do. But his standard, the other thing was the big cane. We were not expecting that, which is basically a one-on-one drill where he's had anybody go against each other. It doesn't matter if you're a quarterback, a punter, a kicker, heck, a graduate assistant. They just go at it, and it's to prove to the locker room and their strength and work. And he just wants to create competition and, in a Miami style of way. So it's been that's really been kind of not expected at a spring practice. That's caught my attention. When it's come to the, actual position battles, I think it's been interesting what's going on with the D-line, basically who's the best of the best. And we don't even have Trayvon Hill coming in or Chigozie Nworuka. They come in after the summer. But even now, our lineman coach thinks, look, the number one team is probably the best in the country. It's the number two team that, wins the game, which if you think about it, the depth and they're being very, very high on guys that have been there for a while but never made a name, and Scott Patcham and Ford being very, very well and efficient in their practice and a high work ethic. That's been quite interesting and promising. The quarterback battle is just one day you hear that Man Williams is on fire. The next day, Perry's doing well. Then it's like they're both doing not so well. And it's been for 2 weeks, Tate is not throwing good balls. And then he's doing amazing. He stepped up, and it's peaks and valleys, like said. You don't know. You would hope you kind of get a lean somewhere, but it's competitive though. And all the wide receiver players are very high on them. So it's good to see that. Whereas before Diaz came in, you had Perry and Williams possibly departing. It would have been just him, honestly, and it'd been a little bit of a desperation call, similar to, I think, Florida State's quarterback situation. Now that they got the transfer, which is kind of an interesting pickup. But those have been the kind of big highlights that have really surprised me and have been something to watch on. Constantly, my fans are telling me, like, how about that O-line? How's that O-line? And look, our D-line is going to make any O-line look bad. It's just going to. And some people are really high on like team 2 guys, but they're going against team 2 guys. You know, they'll look good in spring practice when that happens. But Butchberry is he's an NFL guy, and the players are really impressed with him and how he's conducting and pushing them. And they've had, I think, 1 or 2 good days so far out of 8 spring practices as a line, but it hasn't seemed like the offense as a whole came together at the same time. And that's just something that's you got to watch out, because it's great to see the O-line doing well and running back, and then your quarterback's not throwing well or your wide receiver's not catching it. And so they're all screaming consistency all the time, but that's what spring practice is, getting that all together. They're only 50 to 60% of their offensive system there. So that's just a couple of notes that have caught my attention so far up till now.
We're on the line with Anton Skudarnov. Join him right here on YouTube at Miami Hurricanes Time. He's been up and running for 3 months, has had a tremendous following already built, and a lot of good feedback on what he's delivering for Miami football. So please join him right there, assuming, hey, if you love Miami football, then lock it in right there with Anton. If you just love college football in general, but want to keep track of the big programs, then you still follow Anton to see what's going on with the Canes. So I'm going to ask you the question, Anton, and then I'm going to give you a condition based on my perspective.
Okay.
The question is Miami an elite program? And then I'm going to let you know how I perceive that would be generally. Now, there's a lot to put into context, that to be elite, you generally finish in the top 5 to 10 in the country most of the time. And we could name those programs that there's no question they're elite. There's about 4 or 5. And then you've got some other considerations to make, like with a USC, who's not been hitting that mark for about 10 years, and some other ones like that. So your call on Miami.
Yeah, well, when I hear the word elite program, I would answer it. I'm going to try to answer it from a recruit standpoint. So you're an 18, 19-year-old, and you're like, I want to go to the best elites program, right, to help my career. From that standpoint, Miami's always on the top 5 list and then just doesn't get the mark. And Alabama comes a calling, and it's been difficult to, get those guys from that standpoint. On a record-based level, other than the 2017 season, there's not been much that you can say is elite in that way. I do believe we have elite talent. And as of this year, I think we have an elite coaching staff. I think last year we had a good coaching staff on some parts, but it wasn't an elite one. And this one seems very elite to me. I think that's the change, really. When you look at a program, it's not just the players, but the staff. Now, it's unproven. So for me to say that statement is definitely biased, but I feel like that's been the big change that Miami's needed. I'm curious to see where it goes, and if they, if it's the first year that they prove that they are elite. They need to prove it. You have the elite talent. You have the elite facility now with the indoor practice facility, and the renewed workout room, the Rock putting that in, and the Hard Rock Stadium getting its upgrades. It's been on the rise. So, but now the last thing that's left to prove it, I don't think it's proven yet, to be elite is, like you said, finishing in the top 5. You have the good stadium, you have the good facilities, you have the good coaching staff and players, but now you got to get the good record. You just got to.
So based on that situation, the one drawback at this point in regards to Manny Diaz's first year would be just that. Any coach has a transition phase. Now, some of them complete those rather quickly and successfully, and you don't miss a beat, and they're able to take over programs and perform just as well as the previous coach. Or if they're taking over a situation many times, of course, where there needs to be an upgrade, you see that immediately. Other coaches, and it's understandable that you see the need because of systems and terminology and culture changes that need to be implemented, that you see the big win total jump 2 to 3 years down the road. That taken into consideration, I don't think there's any question. There is no question. Miami's got the best talent in the division. Right. And they've had the best talent in the division.
They have.
and maybe a Virginia Tech or North Carolina on a certain year. And surprisingly, if anyone's out there and hears me say North Carolina, yes, North Carolina, they've had like top 25 recruiting classes most years. It's just a disaster on the field right now. But there's no question Miami's separated itself. It just hasn't come through on the field except for the 2017 season in terms of division championship. So do you see there being an excuse for not winning a division that's arguably the worst division in college football?
An excuse? No, I don't think there's any excuse. I don't think it's just a failure and not meeting the standard, the Miami standard. And that's what Diaz is talking about. And that's what he does to his players. He says, run around the stadium with the last home loss to Duke, a basketball school. Is that the Miami standard? It's not, and we missed it. And it's not going to be accepted here under my tenure. And so in the past decade, with Randy Shannon, Golden, and Richt, I think Rick had the best sense of what the Miami standard was and knew and pushed it to that elite level and knew the elements that were missing. And he kind of got it, although through the cardiac canes in 17, it felt like it, but the game passed them by as we saw in the last season. So I don't think there's any excuse, though. None at all. There's no excuse for Miami losing to Duke. No excuse for us having a competitive game against Syracuse, although they're getting on the rise, with Dino over there, or Virginia. There's just no excuse. It's the talent level is always going to be so drastically different. I don't think there's any excuses. You should not be number one in your division, it being so weak as it is now. No excuses.
So what's the expectation this year for you?
My expectation is 10 wins, and that's keeping the bowl game in there too. So that's the extra game there. 10 wins is my expectation. I think if you miss that with the hype, with the transfers, with the coaching changes and culture changes, I think it'll be a letdown if it's less. So, if you have an 8-5 season and you win the bowl game 9-5, it's going to be a letdown. If you win 9 games and win the bowl game 10, it's going to be like, that's a solid first year of Manny Diaz. You're on the right track. We are making a step forward. Next year with a better bulked up recruiting class, we might be able to, make a solid statement, because I don't think the depth is there everywhere it needs to be. And to get to that level, I don't think you can flip a switch there. But it's college football, so it's not that it's impossible for Miami to win out. It's just every single game is a football game, and Miami has enough talent to win it as close as it can be. But I think an expectation of 10 wins with a bowl game is my expectation. I think if it's less, I think Diaz's hype was not met.
Anton, I enjoyed the conversation. Would encourage anyone to jump on over to Anton's YouTube channel, Miami Hurricanes Time. Appreciate the conversation. Had a good time, a great insight. Wish you all the best with your channel, and hopefully we can talk sometime soon.
Definitely. I appreciate the opportunity, man.